Hey guys, Rob here at 3D Printscape. Today I want to go over changing the build plate on your 3D printers. I'm using my Ender 3 Pro here as an example. I'm going to be switching the magnetic build plate out for a glass one, so I'm going to go over everything that's required for that. The process isn't too bad, so it's not going to be a long video. I just want to make sure we cover everything. If you have any questions, leave a comment below and I'll make sure to get back to you. Before we get started, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe. It's going to help with the YouTube algorithm, and it will help this channel quite a bit. Thank you. Alright, so first, let's take a look at the bed we currently have. So right now we have the magnetic build surface. If you have a previous version of the Ender, it might not be magnetic, it might actually have a glue adhesion layer behind it. So I'm going to go ahead and take this one off. If you have the previous version, you would just peel it off, and then you're going to want to make sure you get all the glue off of it below so that you got your bare metal build surface. I'm going to leave this pad here just so I can go back and forth between the different build surfaces. But if your plan is to only switch to glass and you're not going to use the magnetic one anymore, go ahead and remove that. I personally wouldn't, but it's something you can do. I just want to make sure you're aware of that. Alright, so we went ahead and took the actual old one off. I'll set it off to the side here. I got a new one. They're not that expensive. I think this was like 15 or 20 bucks on Amazon. A reason to swap them out would be, if you've beat this one up too bad, it's in poor condition, and you don't want to buy a new one of these, or you're looking for a build surface that's going to be reusable for a long time, you can go to glass. And some people just like the smooth texture of the glass as well. If you're going down to your bare metal plate, you can also use a build surface like this, where it has the glued background. It's kind of like what was there to begin with. It's just, well, this one specifically came with some filament that I bought, but it's also an option for you as well. But I'm going to focus on the glass one here for this video. Alright, so a couple things with going to glass. You're going to have to make sure you have some sort of adhesion options. You can use hairspray. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I know a lot of people are. It's cheap. One can will last you years, and it works pretty good. If you go on that option, just make sure you spray away from all the components. You don't want to get that on any of the wheels or any of the actual electronics. You can use your painter's tape. I'm going to be doing a video kind of going over all of this here shortly, so keep an eye out for that. I'll go into all of this in more detail. I'm just kind of giving you options here as well. But you can cover the surface in the painter's tape. That should give it enough of a base to stick. You're also going to want to make sure you're using a skirt on the print itself, just to get that extra layer around it and get any air or imperfections out of the filament when you're actually doing the print. The other options are, you can use a glue stick. They have some specific ones for 3D printers, or you can just use one of the Elmer's glue sticks, kind of like this guy here. It works decent. It's not my favorite option, but again, it's another cheap option. Or you can use something like this bed weld here. You're going to want to put a thin surface on the actual build plate. As the build plate heats up, it becomes a lot more sticky, and then it creates a really good base layer. I can probably get 4 or 5 prints on one layer, and then I've had this tube for, I don't know, probably 6 months, maybe longer, and it fills full. This will last you years as well. One thing to note with something like this is you have to wait for the print to cool down and the bed to cool down before you can take the print off. If you try to take the print off when that's not the case, it's going to be very difficult, and if you do manage to get it, it's going to take the material off with it, so you're going to have to reapply this for your next print. So just let it cool down. It'll pop right off when it's cool. Alright, so now let's actually add this to the printer. So you just pretty much set it in place just like any other build plate. And then with glass, the best options for actually attaching it are going to be your little clips here. Just go in each of the corners. Two things to note while I'm doing this. First one being, if you're using any type of auto bed leveling system, make sure the clips do not interfere with it, or you're going to have a bad day. Oops, sorry about that. The second item I wanted to bring up here was, if you notice, this glass is thicker than this build surface. So it's going to be out of level. If you try to just turn it on right now and auto home it, you're going to scratch the build surface. So you're going to want to lower the plate a little bit and then go through the leveling process. Yeah, just don't turn it on, because right now with how it is, it's going to come down, scratch the surface, and then pretty much just drag it across. It'll gouge the glass and pretty much ruin the build surface. So just keep that in mind. Just lower the build plate a little bit just so you won't have that issue, and then go back through and level it. Well, that's pretty much all there is to it. As you can see, the process is pretty easy. If you do have one of the older printers that had the actual old build plate glued to the build surface, make sure you get that glue off, unless you're going to have issues with leveling the bed going forward. And if you do manage to get it level, you could potentially have issues with the print. So just spend the extra time, get the glue off. You might have to use a scraper. Just make sure not to actually gouge the build surface. If you have any questions about the process, leave a comment below and I'll make sure to get back to you.